Yes, he had a very busy day. He's a little shy, hanging out with all these other doggies.
He's got a lot of energy from just playing around with other dogs. Every time I took mine, they'd be like...
He was like that. So we got back probably about an hour or so, a couple hours maybe.
Yep.
And he was like that for a while. Now he's up and moving again. He'll pass out soon.
We can only hope.
Exactly.
Oh,
by the way.
Hello. Welcome to Saturday, to an actual nice Saturday.
Gorgeous.
Which is
Love it.
unusual for us for the past couple months.
April in general in Maine. Think of how many Patriots Day snowstorms we have had.
That's true.
Yeah.
Red light blinking?
Red light blinking.
Excellent. Are you good?
I'm good.
Hello everyone. Welcome once again to Ed Academy. Darryl.
Laura.
Laura, what are we here to talk about today?
We are here to talk about the second half of 2015 Best Picture nominees for movies released in 2014. Today we are talking about Birdman, The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Boyhood, Selma, and Whiplash. And last time we talked about American Sniper, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, and Theory of Everything.
All right. And at the end we're going to talk about whether, obviously, some of these movies should have made it in, considering some of the others that were out there for the year. Things like, and I'll just go through a couple that we can talk about their contention or not. Gone Girl, The Wild, Ex Machina, Inherent Vice, Edge of Tomorrow, Predestination, one of mine, Maleficent, and then everything else was pretty much IP.
Right. And remind me, the ones that we carried forward is definitely Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yep.
And maybe sort of The Imitation Game.
Correct.
But it was, Grand Budapest Hotel was the clear winner of the last four that we talked about.
Pretty much gushed about that movie.
As we do about Wes Anderson.
All right, so let's dive in with Birdman. Birdman, directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, Inarritu, stars Michael Keaton, Zach Galifianakis, wow, I am doing bad today, Edward Norton, Andrea Riseborough, Amy Ryan, and Emma Stone, and Naomi Watts. Was nominated for a ton of stuff: picture, director, actor, supporting actor for Norton, supporting actress for Emma, original screenplay, cinematography, sound editing, and sound mixing. It won for cinematography, original screenplay, best director, and best picture. Go with this stuff.
All right, so the summary is, a washed-up superhero actor attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production.
That's the bones of it, sure.
It misses a really big piece of it, there being magical realism in the movie.
Yes.
So I think that is important to the summary, but we'll let it pass. There's a lot of fun facts about this movie because it's a very interesting movie from production to everything. But a couple I just grabbed were, first of all, the Emma Stone role they were originally looking at Margot Robbie for.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the age, but I would think she would be a little too old for that movie. Just thinking about she was just in Wolf of Wall Street, but not for me to say. And then the other thing they had to actually change later was there was a line in there about we should get a real actor when they were talking about getting a replacement who ended up being Ed Norton. And they said, how about Woody Harrelson? Well, he's working on the next Hunger Games movie. That line originally said Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he's working on the next Hunger Games movie and he subsequently passed away. So they had to change the line.
Okay. Interesting.
And very interesting because, again, one of the interesting things about this movie is there were so few edits. And there were so many long lines. It's actually one of the very few Best Pictures that was not even nominated for Best Editing because there was so little editing.
That was where I was going to start, because this is one of those movies to me that it's a rarity in that it does not feel like anything else that you've seen before.
Right.
It has its own feel, its own style, and whether you like that style or not, that's not what I'm talking about. But this is a unique experience when you watch this movie. It's not like something you've done before. And it does try to have it feel like it is one just long tracking shot throughout. There are obviously, they obviously did have edit points, but you're right. Most of those scenes were so incredibly long. And it does feel almost at times like it's a play within a play.
Yes.
The way that it's structured, the way that it's filmed, the action that is continuous throughout has very much a very play-like quality to it, but it's not confined like a lot of plays would be, even though a lot of the action does take place on a literal stage.
Exactly. I was fascinated by the movement of the camera because it seems to be sometimes, especially like when he's walking down Times Square, when he's trying to get back into the theater, and it's kind of going around him, it's behind him, it's in front of him, but you know, you feel like you're with him as an actor. It's very propulsive, the way that the camera is moving, and I found that to be really interesting. This is one of those movies that, again, I really appreciate what they did. I don't know that I enjoyed it that much as a watcher myself. It's just not, it wasn't for me, but I could really see why people were impressed by it.
I've heard a lot of comments where people were saying, and I get it, it's not for me. I truly enjoyed this movie. I like the experience of it. This is the second or third time that I've seen it. But a lot of people have said that it made them feel uncomfortable, which I can kind of see because it's so continuous.
Okay, like physically uncomfortable because it's so contained and then open and
And also, there are not moments where you just kind of sit and rest. This is a continual action movie, not like, you know, big budget action movie with there's constant action. You don't get to sit with a character for a while as they're being introspective or even sit in a moment. Everything is just constantly going throughout. So I can see that. I myself don't feel it, but I can understand that being criticism people would make of the movie.
Nope, I totally agree. And a couple of places where I guess I was uncomfortable and they wanted you to be was like when Ed Norton came out and spoke to Emma Stone, who was sitting on the, you know, kind of sitting on the ledge. She was uncomfortably close to the edge of the ledge, and they wanted you to feel that. That again, she was there for the adrenaline rush. She said that herself. Can we talk a little bit about the beginning of the movie? Because you speak a lot about how that is a really make it or break it time for you. I loved that the beginning of the movie, you see him in kind of a cross-legged position, hovering in the air.
Yes.
So you're walking into this movie and you're like, oh, this is different. And so like the minute you get there, you're like, I don't know what's happening here, but this is going to be different. And I like that it sets that stage.
So along those lines, and that's great because it is right out of the gate, is this real? And you start to question what is reality throughout the entire movie. And the movie wants you to.
Oh, sure.
And it does definitely lead you in directions. Is the powers, quote unquote, that he has that you see, are those real or are they in his head? I think the movie gives enough hints for you to understand that it is in his head. They're not actual real powers. He's not manipulating the poster on the wall. You know, that's what he thinks he's doing, but he's really not. Because instantly they cut to the next scene where someone walks in and sees him like having trashed the room. So while it never overtly shows you everything, it hints very strongly that this is all in his head, which of course sets up the ending of it.
Right.
But I like that right out of the gate, the movie is telling you you're going to have to question what reality is.
What you're
seeing. We're going to explore that now for you.
Exactly. And of course it had the whole Chekhov's gun moment of, you know, the conversation about this looks like a blank, so okay, we've got to throw a real gun in there. And then it's the, okay, is he trying to kill himself? Does he try, you know, like what was the purpose behind that? And, you know, I like that you're questioning all along the way, because the first time I watched it, when I saw him pull the gun, I assumed he was going to kill Ed Norton. And I think it wanted you to go in that direction. And then I immediately assumed, oh, he's killed himself. And then you see him again in the hospital, and you're like, oh, okay, this was a...
He just blew his nose off.
He blew his nose off, and this was a purposeful moment. He didn't want to die, especially where he had just been talking about trying to take his life. He didn't want to die. My impression was he didn't. He just wanted to do something memorable and magnificent on stage. Maybe that's right or wrong, but that's my opinion.
I would tend to agree with that. I mean, the whole movie is his exploring and trying to find validation in him as an artist. I mean, the whole premise is he used to be this super big budget action star that everybody knows him for, but he's always wanted to be valued for his art.
Yes.
But he's only known for something that was a commercial success, and that's of course the balance. And one of the big themes throughout the entire film is commerce versus art. What actually is art? Do you have to struggle for your art? It's just major art-focused kind of themes that get woven in.
Well, and can we explore that a little bit?
Sure.
Because I think one of the things that I read about, and also I saw myself in this movie, is they really they cast Michael Keaton and Ed Norton as for a purpose, because what you're saying about Michael Keaton, somebody who was incredibly successful in a commercial venture,
Batman, yep.
and he has the whole Batman behind him, but also who is a good actor and really hones his craft. Ed Norton, very much known for being, method actor, very difficult on set, so they're like both kind of playing enhanced versions of themselves,
Yep.
as well as the characters, which I
Yep.
thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I think the casting in this is spot on. The way that the two of them are able to play off each other when it's necessary, it's clear from the very beginning that they barely respect each other. They certainly don't like each other.
Yes.
But it works for the play that they're putting on.
Yep.
So they both try to struggle through that. And I like that they are able to do that. Two powerhouse actors inhabiting their own particular roles for purpose and intent does nothing but enhance the film, I think.
Exactly. Nope, I agree with you completely.
There's a couple things I would like to talk about. One, and we're gonna revisit this in another movie as well, the score.
Okay.
The score for a lot of people is off-putting. It's a lot of these, it's a very percussive score, which I personally think for what the film is attempting, works beautifully. It does make you uncomfortable. It's not something you can relax into. It is hitting moments, but it's hitting moments consistently throughout. And that percussive raises the tension of everything overall, I think. So I think the score works incredibly well, even though it's not your typical score.
I agree with you, and actually one of my fun facts that I didn't share was, you'll notice one of the nominations was not for score.
Correct.
It was not allowed to be, basically they put it in for score and it was pushed back because so much of the score was classical music.
Yep.
And so it was music not created for the movie.
Oh.
And the other piece of it was because it was percussive and kind of not music, it did not count within the rules of a score.
Yes.
So it wasn't up for best original score. But I agree with you. So all of the reasons why it didn't follow the guidelines worked for the movie,
Yep.
because this was such a unique movie.
Yep. Yeah, so
I like that percussive score. Can't imagine when we're going to be talking about it again. But I really do. I agree with you. It ramped things up, and again, probably added to that level of discomfort people felt.
everything in this film, and I've seen some of the director's other films, I think this is his crowning achievement for sure.
Yeah.
But everything that he has done, it's always with intent and purpose. And there's even a setup in the very early on that kind of hints at that. When you get the title of the film,
Oh yes. Yeah.
everything is in capital letters except for the I, which is also slightly raised above all of the others, but it's in lowercase. That's intentional.
Of course.
It's a hint, and again, another way to say, hey, pay attention. This is a different kind of film, and there are going to be things that you need to be
Yeah.
paying attention to. That's also one of the criticisms I see of this film, is it's not a film you can relax into. You have to be front forward.
Oh, absolutely. And this is also one of those films that you cannot look away from. So the night I started to watch it again, I was a little tuckered out, and so I started watching it, and I was kind of like, and I'm like, nope, I gotta stop this, because I need to pay attention. I need to be
Yep.
fully on my game to be able to enjoy this movie.
I had seen it before, so when I went to do the rewatch, I was admittedly a little tipsy, and half an hour in, I was like, no, I can't.
So we both had the same
Yeah.
experiences. We were not in a place to actually experience the movie, and needed to make sure our, kind of like our environment was perfect for it.
Yeah, this is not a
Yeah.
put on a Sunday afternoon movie to watch. This is a Friday night.
Pay attention.
Exactly right. I cannot speak today. Yeah, so this is I probably won't watch this again for maybe 10 or 15 years, but the experience of it, and it's not often we can talk about the experience of a
Yes.
film. This is an experience. It's not just something to sit down and kind of half pay attention to. You need to pay attention, and it is an experience that you have while watching this film.
I fully agree. Yes.
All right, I have really nothing else, except for the performances were all top-notch. Everybody was on their game. Even Emma, because she's still kind of young, but this is in her rise into
Yeah.
more difficult and challenging roles. She stepped right up to the plate and did exactly what she needed. I thought some of the weaker scenes in this were the scenes between her and Ed Norton. They seemed like a little too transparently manufactured.
Okay.
Not that the performances wasn't great, I just don't think that in their individual scenes there was a heck of a lot for them to work with they were necessary, but I don't know, they were some of the weaker scenes for me.
I'd have to go back and think about that because I agree with you. I think all the performances were great, even the smaller ones, Zach Galifianakis, Naomi Watts, and Amy Ryan was fantastic as the wife, and she had a very small part, and she was great in it. I like her whenever I see her.
Do you want to talk about the end? I think personally the end is pretty transparent, but some people have questioned, did he actually fly away? Was it real? No, he didn't. He basically fell to his death.
Okay, you tell me. What do you think?
I think in his head he was doing everything that he had been doing all along, believing he had powers, and he was accepting the fact that he was Birdman and he was going to fly away, and he fell to his death.
Okay, I did not know how. So this weirdly, I connected with this with Amour in my world.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like he just like disappeared in my mind, and like where did he go? I don't know, because I think if he was going to kill himself, he would have done it with a gun. So yes, I agree with you that he wasn't trying to injure himself. Did he actually think that he was Birdman and fly away? Maybe, but why was Emma Stone smiling when she looked up then? Because she didn't seem horrified when she looked down. She was like afraid to look down, but then didn't seem to see him and looked up and smiled. So that's what threw me off.
And I think it's it's purposeful that it's when she looks up and smiles, is she seeing him in the sky flying away, or is she recognizing that her father has now passed away?
Peace.
Yes, yeah. And so she's looking up to quote unquote heaven and accepting and smiling. I think it's the latter.
It could be the latter for me, except for the lack of horror when she looks down, because she would be seeing his body.
True.
So if she had a horrified look and then looked up with peace and believed that he was at rest, that would be one thing. I looked at it like the old man in Amour, and he's just gone. Where is he? What the hell? Where'd he go? So.
And I think the good thing is
I
that
think you're right that that's the answer. I just did not get there.
I think there's enough ambiguity that you can kind of walk away with your own interpretation, even though I think the film is pushing it in a particular direction. But you're correct, the fact that she looks down and there's no recognition at all does throw all of that into question slightly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on to Boyhood. Boyhood, written and directed by Richard Linklater, starring Patricia Arquette, Alar Coltrane, Lorelei Linklater, and Ethan Hawke. The big thing with this film, and I'm not trying to take anything away from your fascinating facts, but this...
I didn't even put this in as a fact because we need to know it, yeah.
This film was filmed over the course of 12 years. I think every 4 years they went back and filmed a couple scenes. So it was from 2002 to 2014, done intentionally, same people as they aged up throughout. Was nominated for Picture, Director, Supporting Actor for Hawke, Supporting Actress for Arquette, Screenplay for Linklater, and Film Editing. And Patricia did win her Academy Award for this.
Okay, so the summary is the life of Mason from early childhood to his arrival at college. I'm going to say that is the perfect summary because that is what the movie is.
Yeah, and I will give that to you because this movie really has very little substance.
Exactly. Like I would normally look at that and go, "What?" But yes, that is the summary.
Yep.
So just a couple of fun facts because I think the big fun fact is how it was created. But because these folks, kind of had to come over back every period of time through 12 years. Interesting, none of them were contractually obligated to do so because of years earlier, it was Olivia de Havilland who broke the contract system for the studios, the big studio contract system. So due to California labor law, it is illegal to contract employees for more than a 7-year period. So they could not be contractually obligated. They all came back because they wanted to.
I had when this movie came out, I saw a couple of interviews with Linklater, and that was everything that people. With this movie, people don't really talk about the quality or the movie, they talk about the achievement of the movie. And we'll get into that, but I think that is 100% deserved. But he had said that it was always a handshake deal, that this was what was going to happen. We expected them. We put a lot of time and money in, and if something happened, obviously the film would never come. If someone just decided they simply didn't want to do it, we would not have been able to finish the film. So there was a lot of just mutual understanding when we launched on this. And it was always kind of a back burner project for him, which I enjoyed
And apparently the only member of the cast who really did not want to return was his daughter Samantha. And she basically, apparently when she was a small child, when it started, she begged him to be a part of it, and then later on she grew bored and asked him to kill off the character. Which of course he's like, that's not my movie, honey, and you better show up. So that may have been a family dispute, but it was not a legal dispute. And then I just thought, interestingly, that during the course of filming, both Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke got divorced, got remarried, and had children with their new families. So so how interesting for them to be living this kind of parallel life of the storyline and their own lives.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna come out swinging. I already kind of mentioned it.
Yeah.
This movie has very little to it.
Yeah.
It's snippets of time. While it is loosely the story of the son as he ages and starts to go through and questions things, there's really not a lot to this movie at all.
I thought that it was a very interesting thought experiment and a well-executed experiment in filmmaking, but not a very good film.
Yeah. And I think that's why it was nominated. Again, it's like why Avatar got nominated, because of the achievement. Why Gravity got nominated, because of the achievement. This was nominated because of the achievement that it was able to do in film, and the experiment was a successful one, and I think they were rewarding that.
Yes, and I do think it was a successful one. I thought it was incredibly interesting, and I think that there were some peaks and mostly valleys.
Yeah.
But there were some really good parts of it, but quite a lot of it was a little bit dull, or just, there were a few scenes. One of the scenes with Mason and his friends getting high and talking about girls was almost unwatchable because of the quality of acting of that group of young performers.
Yeah,
terrible.
I get what they were trying to do, but they were not. They were not good.
Well, you know what it seemed like? It seemed like however old Richard Linklater was at that time was writing a scene of what 12 to 14-year-old boys talk about.
Yeah.
And it was very awkward and off-putting.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable for sure, but it wasn't the subject matter necessarily for me.
Oh no, it was the performance. Yeah, it wasn't the subject matter. It was very much, like what's the meme of, hey, us young kids, like whatever that meme is. It's just like, it really was terrible.
It's the same quality of writing and attempts of things that he did in Dazed and Confused, but Dazed and Confused had quality actors delivering the lines.
I think that's fair. I will say, just starting with performances, I loved Patricia Arquette, and I thought she actually deserved her Oscar. I thought she did a very nice job with what she was given. I thought Ethan Hawke did a great job as, kind of like the distant father, and he seemed very natural with their children, and I liked the arc that his character took. And I thought Mason grew as an actor over the course of the movie. I thought he was, very immature and terrible. And then I thought he got a little bit better in his college years, but...
I think he just got more comfortable.
Yeah, that could be it.
Because the college years, he does play well what a lot of us went through at that time of questioning what life is. I want more out of my life. I don't want to do the things that my parents are doing and settle for all these things. My life is going to be big and important. We all kind of go through that phase. And I thought he did a good job of portraying that and sticking to it and adhering to it. And in that process also being kind of a dick. Because when you have those, you kind of can come across as a dick when you're at that particular age.
I will say the thing that bothered me the most about this is that we never actually got to know or understand Mason. It was all about Mason, and we saw Mason and we watched Mason, but even the comments about, Ethan Hawke is the one who said he told us he wants to get as far away as possible and yet get in-state tuition. Everything that we learned about Mason was somebody else telling us about him.
Yeah, that's true.
We never got inside him, and that bothered me a little bit.
We didn't really get inside many of the characters.
No.
These were more like dioramas than actual character explorations.
Fair.
And that's fun. I think for the story they were telling and the way that they were telling it, I think that probably worked. But I think it could have been far more interesting if we had a little bit more developed. Like when Ethan Hawke's character shows up, there's this feeling that he is a horrible, estranged father who does not love his children. But from right out of the gate, it is apparent that he does. And for the rest of the film, he goes kind of out of his way that every time he's with them, he shows love, affection, genuine caring, and treats them like adults, which contradicts everything that we were told about him in the beginning. So I would have liked to have seen more in-depth for everybody going on. We see Patricia Arquette make these series of bad choices with people, but no real understanding of how or why, maybe like what's going on in her head that she is doing these kind of things.
Exactly. What is fascinating to me was she goes from almost the prey to the predator of she is a student who marries her professor, and then she becomes a professor who marries her student. And I just found that odd. And you know, clearly we're supposed to see that she has a problem with alcohol and chooses men who have problems with alcohol.
Right.
But yes, you see her big mistakes, and you see. I think it was actually not kind enough to her, because to your point is Ethan Hawke shows up once in a while and looks like a good guy. And then you wonder, well, why are they talking about him so badly? And it's like, well, they're talking about him so badly because he's not there 28 days out of the month. He's there 2 days out of the month and looks like a great guy.
Yeah.
So sure, you know, he comes off well.
Yeah, and that's just it. And I question, because of the formatting of this, of doing it every couple of years and only having a few scenes, if that was the intent, to make it a little bit more surface, which Linkletter doesn't really write a lot of surface stuff. He does write thought-provoking, deep things that are amusing and sometimes just outright funny. Dazed and Confused is hysterical at points. The before and after Sunset Sunrise movies are completely thought-provoking explorations of what people think about life. So he's capable of it. I just wanted to see that in this film.
I agree with you. I think you're right. The reason is because it's just a little bit of time over a very long period.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I can come away with, because again, he's capable, so there must have been a very conscious choice to not do that this time around.
I think he was just more focused on the experiment than he was on the people.
Yeah.
Or the story.
His latest one with Ethan that just came out on Netflix is so beautifully written.
Which one is that?
It's the one, the Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Oh, yeah, Blue Moon.
Yep, Blue Moon.
Okay, yeah, I have not seen that yet. I've got to.
It's really, really good.
Ethan Hawke is his little muse.
Yeah, so I don't really have a lot to say, because there's really not a lot here.
No, it's not. I mean, again, I think it was an interesting and well-executed experiment, but it's not an enjoyable film, and I don't think it's necessarily a very skilled film.
Yep, I agree. Okay, moving on to Selma. Directed by Ava DuVernay, written by Paul Webb, based on the 1965 Selma to Montgomery voting right marches, which were initiated and directed by James Bevel and led by Martin Luther King Jr., Hosea Williams, and John Lewis. Film stars actors David Oyelowo, Tom Wilkinson, Tim Roth, Carmen Ejalde, Common, and has Giovanni Ribisi, Alessandro Nivola, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Oprah Winfrey in minor roles. It was nominated for Best Picture and Original Song, and won for Song.
All right, so the summary is a chronicle of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s campaign to secure equal voting rights via an epic march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in 1965.
That's accurate.
Yep, I think so. So a couple of fun facts are that for such a very distinctly American story and American movie, all of the primary cast members are British.
That's true.
And interestingly, the woman who played Coretta Scott King was also Coretta Scott King in the 2001 movie Boycott. This is the second time she's played her.
Okay.
Which I find
I wonder
interesting.
if that's because of a look.
I don't know. Maybe she did such a good job in Boycott that they wanted to have her there. I think Boycott.
All right.
All right, on to Selma.
I don't have a heck of a lot with this, and it's not because I wasn't paying attention or things. It's just I just watched this, finished it yesterday, and so it's been sitting with me. This is a heavy movie, but the thing that I would like to start out with is we talk often about choices when it comes to making a film, both the choice of what you focus on for your story, as well as the choices of where you put your camera, choices of who's playing who. This one, I think, for the story that it was trying to tell, made a good choice that it is focused on the city of Selma and the events of that. Even though Martin Luther King Jr. is the principal architect behind that, the film itself focuses on Selma and then all the periphery things that were going on to make these events happen. And I think that was a very wise choice, because they can cut to the presidency talking about what to be done in Selma. And I just think that was a very good choice, and they stuck to that throughout the entire film.
I agree completely. There are two really, it's fun. I like the way that you framed it as choices. There are two nice choices that they made that I thought it made it an incredibly, enjoyable is the wrong word, but a good film to watch. The first one is, when we talk about biopics, the scope of the biopic, this is not a cradle to grave. This was a particular moment in time, a particular event, and I like that they kept it to that scope. So whether it's the city, whether it's the time frame, whether it's what they were trying to, what their purpose was, I like that that's what the scope was. And then the second piece was, I loved how, I think that we have this shorthand history of the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr., and they're tied up one and the same. And yet there were so many factions of, you had, everybody who wanted, who was in favor of civil rights, but you had Martin Luther King Jr. and his followers. You had Malcolm X, who was not in favor of civil disobedience and all of his teachings. Then you had John Lewis and his group and the students and what they wanted. And I thought it was really interesting how they were all trying to accomplish the same thing, but in very different ways. And the tensions between the factions, I thought it was really interesting the way they portrayed that.
One of the things I think the film did very well is the honest portrayals of people's thoughts and actions. Even the president, and historically we know that these have panned themselves out to be true, where he is saying, proudest moment of my life, signing this into legislation. However, I can't focus on your issue now. I have to focus on something else, which will then get us to be able to talk more and have more strength to be able to talk about your issue. A politician's answer.
Yes.
We have an activist's answer, a couple different activists' answer. Everybody being very open and honest and straightforward in the things that they wanted to achieve and believe in. But those things do come into conflict with each other, even when you are trying to accomplish the same goal, just like you were saying.
Yeah, when everyone's on the same side, but you're looking at it from different angles.
It's kind of what the Democratic Party suffers from right now. Anyway.
Oh, do not get me started.
I'm sorry. I was worried. I recognized that this was the first time I ever saw this. I thought I had seen it before, and I was wrong. And I was worried with the opening, when they blow up the church with the four girls, and the slow focus on the girls as they're being blown through the air. I was very worried about what kind of film this was going to be.
I didn't like that start, and myself, because I didn't think that it really accurately portrayed what the rest of the movie was about.
Yeah, and that's why I was a little worried. I was like, if we're going to be talking about Selma, I understand why you are opening with this, because it was.
Oh, you have to show that. Yeah, you have to.
But the
style.
The style of it, while graphic, was also quite beautiful, like the way it was filmed as they were going through. But I was a little worried that it was going to be more of an artistic expression as opposed to an exploration. And I'm very glad that the film went in the direction that it did, of having these opposing forces and everybody, talking things through with actions and so on. But I was worried with that opening, because it is so different than the rest of the film.
It was a little bit jarring. I agree, and the explosion should have been jarring. But you're right, the way that it was depicted. The other thing that I really did not like as a directorial choice was the typing and the dossiers throughout the movie. I think the reason that it bothered me was more like, every time they showed something kind of negative about Dr. King or negative around, the people that were fighting for civil rights, it was like, ding, 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 see, it's based on a dossier, it's based on something that really happened. It's
like justification.
It seemed justification, exactly, and I don't think that was necessary in this movie. I'm like, I am sure, and history has borne out that, like you were saying, Lyndon Johnson focused on other things, and yes, he signed the Civil Rights Act, but he also was not necessarily in favor of the march on from Selma to Montgomery. They had to bring him on board. Dr. King had affairs, like that's something that happened. I think that has been pretty well established. we would have believed that without the dossier. Ding, 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 look at what the FBI has come up with. I don't think that was necessary.
I also don't think the where are they now at the end was necessary.
No.
Like, you may not know the history, but you didn't need to know that George Wallace didn't do anything after this because he was in the wrong. You didn't need to know that the cop never got elected again because he was a dickhead.
Yes.
Like, none of that mattered as far as what the story that was being told. I didn't think. It just seemed like a bit of an information dump to make you feel good
Yes.
at the end.
Well, and also, I think that these stories and the people in them are famous enough that this was not a movie where they had to like bring in so much context. You know, it's like when they said the name John Lewis, I'm like, I know who John Lewis is. Like, I'm good. So I don't like a lot of the things, and they didn't give me too much. They're just like, I'm going to assume you know who that is, and we're just going to keep on going.
And if you don't, because of the subject matter,
You can figure it out.
well, not only that, but I would trust more that this is not going to be an Oliver Stone interpretation of history.
Exactly. Yes.
So
That's a great point.
I'm going to trust that the information that I'm being given is accurate, and if I
Yes.
do have any questions, I will go look it up myself.
Exactly. It's like the fact that, or the proposal that Lyndon Johnson had J. Edgar Hoover look into Dr. King. I'm like, yep, that probably happened. I didn't need the typing. So I believed that all on my own. So can we talk a little bit about the main performance?
No.
Okay.
Of course you can.
Okay, I'm going to. So you can join me. I loved the performance in some ways because I loved that he tried to get the essence of Dr. King and did not have to mimic him or be a caricature of him. So he definitely got his essence without looking exactly like him, but I didn't feel like he captured his charisma. And just one quick second. And and I wasn't sure whether that was the performance or because this movie very intentionally made him more of a real man. You know, so like, did he have the less charisma because we saw him at home with his wife hanging out, and he wasn't, you know, who we are used to seeing on black and white film reels.
Giving speeches.
And I couldn't tell.
That's a really good question because you're right. The charisma that we get from King is when he is orating, and he was a brilliant orator. We don't have footage of him just hanging out, strategizing, planning, talking with friends. We don't have that.
Right.
So were there different versions of him? And I think that's a really good, I never even thought of it, but I think that's a really good thing to think about. I think the film is probably doing a little bit less of that. If every moment of his life he was just this, you know, totally charismatic guy, I think that would become unbelievable. Like, he is larger than life and not a real person.
I think they wanted to make him more real.
I agree.
And succeeded in doing so, but it took me about halfway through the movie before I'm like, why is this not who I'm used to seeing?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, it's purposely not who I'm used to seeing.
Yeah. I want to come back to something that we talked about, which is the people being honest in their interpretations and questioning things. One of my favorite scenes is when they first arrive in Selma and they are talking to the two people who for the past 2 years have been handling voter registration.
Yeah.
And it's a very honest conversation, but it's also a lot of hubris. Like, the people in King's crowd come in being like, we know what we're doing, we're going to totally take this over, we're going to make this work for you. The two people are like resisting against that. We've been doing this for 2 years, how's it going? Like, there's just a lot of tension and hubris on King's side until King speaks. And then he lays it all out. You guys have been doing great, but this is what we're here to do, this is why we're here to do this is our intent, this is our goal, can you help us achieve this? And then once that is said, when everything's on the table, everybody's on the same page, they know the plan, and they're able to move forward, as opposed to what his people were doing is like, we're better at this.
Yeah, but I think not everyone was 100% on board. They allowed them to come in, but even so, there were people that were more on board, and there were people who were like, that's great, but you're going to be gone in 6 weeks, and we're going to still be here. And you know, you can't come in and fix us. And so I really liked that tension.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the strength of the film is that it's not brutal honesty, but it is speaking with intent and purpose of what you're trying to achieve and do, and everybody was doing that. Everybody on every level was using that kind of voice, which in these moments is necessary to achieve what your goals are. We may have conflict, but if we talk honestly about it, we're going to get to a better place. And I just liked how that language was handled, the conversations were handled in this film. Even when Malcolm X is talking with Coretta, and he's like, absolutely, I've said all of these things in the public, I have disparaged you and your movement, I have done all of these things, but in this I can help. Let the anger come to me, let the direction come to me, so that you can achieve your goal, because it'll be misdirection, it'll be focused on me. Like those kind of conversations, while I don't know if they actually ever happened, again, they're honest, open conversations about trying to achieve a goal, and the film did that very, very well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think also, like, one of the things that annoyed me, which I think is very historically accurate, is obviously they show the young African-American man who was killed during this cause and during this action, and nothing really happened. And then, a white priest from Boston's killed, and suddenly everything's mobilized and people are moving and people are doing things. And it annoys you that that's what it took, and I'm sure historically accurately depicted what was needed to help it. I know that, so I went to a college that had a mission down in Selma, and so this story and this event was very big, and they taught it all the time, but they never taught the conflicts and the tensions and the complexity. It was just all almost a feel-good story, like it's a fairy tale of look what Dr. King and his people did and how wonderful it was, and what was accomplished, and that is all true. But I love that this dug so much under the surface of the fairy tale that I heard.
Yeah, you learn, like, when you know the details of things, the conflicts and the things that go wrong, you learn more. It's not just about the end goal achievement. Understanding how to get there can help you also if you're trying to do something similar.
Exactly.
That's why a complete story is good, not just a surface story.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it did. I think it did the job that it wanted to do and did it well.
Yeah, it told a complex story. It told a complex story very well from multiple angles and multiple perspectives, while still being able to singularly focus on Selma.
Agree.
And I think that's a very good achievement to the writing and the directing, that they were able to achieve all of these complex things with such a singular goal.
Agree.
I have really nothing else.
I'm all good.
All right, moving on to the last, Whiplash, written and directed by Damien Chazelle, starring Miles Keller, J.K. Simmons, Melissa Benoist, and Paul Reiser. There's a couple other extras, but nominated for Picture, Supporting Actor for Simmons, adapted screenplay, film editing, sound mixing, one for sound mixing, film editing, and J.K. won his Oscar.
Alrighty, so the summary is: a promising young drummer enrolls at a cutthroat music conservatory where his dreams of greatness are mentored by an instructor who will stop at nothing to realize a student's potential.
Accurate.
I think so. So just a couple of fun facts on this. So this was actually based on a short film of the same name with a different drummer. Miles Teller was not in the short film, but J.K. Simmons was. And it was shot, so that was the short, and then this movie was shot, edited, and admitted to Sundance within 10 weeks.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous for a full-length feature. Also, this is one of 3 movies that was adapted from a short film to a Best Picture nominee. The other 2 are District 9, which makes sense, we've talked about that before, and Fatal Attraction. I had no idea that was a short film beforehand.
Neither did I.
And I don't think it starred Michael Douglas, and I think it was a short film that they then expanded into a blockbuster starring with stars.
Interesting.
I thought so.
Okay, I'm gonna come up with a lot of love. I love this movie, and I will admit my bias. Part of it is that I'm a drummer, but also being a drummer, I can point out many of the inaccuracies of just the drumming styles, techniques, things like that. But because it's very drum focused, I think that's also part of a bias going in. So I'm going to start with that I love it, but I admit my bias up front.
Fair.
My primary thing that I love about this movie is, to me, This is an exploration of two narcissistic artists who battle through each other to try to achieve something greater than themselves. That's how I view this movie. And we'll get into the specifics of a lot of it, but I think that, when you view it that way, this is an amazing film.
I like this film very much. I agree with you. And mostly it's because of the performances and because of the kind of theme of obsession. And so I completely agree with you. I'm interested in the Miles Teller character because certainly Fletcher is a narcissist and an incredibly talented one. And so we can talk about him in a minute. I feel like the Miles Teller Andrew gets there because a very interesting part early in the movie is he's watching a movie with his dad, and his dad throws raisinets in the popcorn, and they have this conversation about, you know, Andrew doesn't really like raisinets, but he just eats around them. So to me, that's a kid who's like a go along, get along. I'm not gonna ask for things that are important to me. I'm just gonna, you know, live my life. And then he becomes obsessed. So for me, it's a character arc of the stronger he gets, the bigger his ego gets, the more he realizes his talent and it comes to the surface. But I don't know that he starts as a narcissist. He started to me as kind of just like a fine, okay kid. And then you've got the dinner scene and all of those things that show what an ass he is, but what an incredibly talented ass he is. So do you see that he's got that all along, or do you think it grows?
It definitely grows and gets stronger. I think it's already there, I think it's in every aspect of his life except for with his father. His father is his safe zone.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. That would make sense because that would take my popcorn theory. It's about his dad and his dad's safety, which by the way, Paul Reiser did a really nice job as well.
Yeah, he's always
Love
been
him.
an underrated actor. He's
They're
been in a
great.
lot of things where he shows his range and talent. I mean, it's not as he's limited, but he has a wider range than a lot of people give him credit for, because they just look at him as being a comedic kind of guy. So a couple things that this film, when we go back to the earlier film as well, this is another film that is just filled with tension and very, very little release.
Yes.
This movie gets tenser and tenser and tenser and just gets filled with tension, very little release throughout, except for the end where we fade to black, which we'll get to in a minute because
Okay. I have that we got to talk about. Yeah,
it's important to talk about the ending. And I think that kind of film, building that tension, does give something that is not really that interesting of a story at its surface more gravitas and weight by not letting that tension release. If we had a lot of the release of tension, I don't think this film would be as strong as it actually is.
I agree, and I would say that from the last half hour of the film, probably from the moment that the bus breaks down or whatever, and he's got to find a car and he's got to find a way to get there, and then he's got to go back for his sticks, and then he gets in an accident. From that moment, and then of course the long drum solo through, like you can't keep your eyes off the film and you're barely breathing. Like it sucks you right into the movie.
The only time we ever really get kind of a more relaxed moment is when he discovers him playing in the jazz club. And you can tell, in retrospect, you can tell that it's all a setup.
Yeah, of course.
That moment that they have, which I think is a very crucial moment and an underlying moment that explains the entire philosophy of this film, that conversation that they have back and forth, is a very relaxed moment. It's one, I think probably the only real true relaxed moment, except for when we see him talking to the little girl who's
Oh yeah. Well, also I would say like Andrew on a date too. That was kind of a quieter moment.
Yeah, but even that was filled with a little tension for me because it was an awkward date.
Yeah, it was. Good point.
But so those moments, and I'll definitely want to talk about that scene because it sets up the philosophy, particularly Fletcher's philosophy. And it's a good question to ask someone. It's like a barroom conversation. Is the pain and suffering worth it to bring about such greatness? That story that he tells is 100% true of the cymbal being thrown at Charlie Bird.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
And, you know, that part of Bird then going and focusing and coming back and becoming the greatness that he was for a year would not have happened if that moment had happened. So the philosophy being, do you have to suffer to be able to have the drive and focus to bring out the greatness in yourself? Fletcher, I believe, and this is where I say a lot of ego and narcissism comes into play. Fletcher believes he is that good to find and bring that out of somebody.
Mhm.
But his philosophy is to do it through that kind of pain, torture, and pushing. Teller's character believes he is that person.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So the question then becomes, does he get better and get to the place that he needed to be because Fletcher actually pushed him and put him into these moments?
Mhm.
Or was that something that he would have gotten there already on his own? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
But the film does just explore in a very long, drawn-out way that central philosophy. And a lot of people have issue with that because they just see the abuse.
Oh, no, I think that it's the question mark
Yeah.
of is the abuse needed?
Yeah.
And it's scary if the answer is yes, but it also very well could be yes.
Yep.
So, no, I didn't think that there's a problem with the movie because of that. I think that's the number one question behind the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's the premise or
Yeah.
the thesis of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's the mentor-mentee and how do you get the best out of somebody.
Yep.
I did find it very interesting though, and in a little moment of his psyche when Fletcher was relaying the story of his student who died, and he said he died in a car accident when he absolutely knew that he had taken his life.
Yep.
And so, to me, because he knew enough to lie, did he in his mind know that he owned some of that responsibility?
I think
And
so.
I think so. Yes.
But he's also not the kind of person who's going to dwell on it. The reason
No.
he's upset is he's upset at the loss of talent that he believes he created, not necessarily the loss of the individual.
And see, I saw it more of the fact that I didn't think that he thought the individual had the talent at the end of the day.
Mm.
So for me, it was not necessarily the individual's loss, but like just kind of like, did I push this person needlessly? Like because he didn't, I picked the
okay, I
wrong
see what you're
guy.
saying.
I picked the wrong guy, and if the guy had the talent, he would have succeeded. But this guy didn't have the talent, I pushed him too far, and because he didn't have it in him, I picked wrong, and it went badly.
I didn't.
You didn't see that?
No,
Okay, interesting.
I got it that because he does play his music, and that's one of the keys for me. He wouldn't have done that if he didn't believe that the music was that the guy was talented enough.
That's fair.
So yeah, I didn't
Okay.
see that. I just want to repeat one of the lines that is such an incredibly well-written line and underlines the thesis. It's when they're in the jazz club and he's giving his philosophy and he says there are no more harmful words in the English language than good job. Beautiful
I agree.
line. Sums up everything that the
Yes.
film is talking about and showing to you in one sentence.
Beautiful delivery, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think it showed who he was, it showed his philosophy, it showed, can we talk a little bit about the solo?
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
the end, because so much was conveyed without any dialogue. You can see all of the emotions across J.K. Simmons' face between, he is pissed that Miles Teller has now kind of taken over the performance. He
Yep.
was pissed. He is then, all right, I'm not gonna, he's like, okay, but we're here, so I'm not gonna make a bad showing behind me. And then he's kind of like, all right, I'm reluctantly going along with it. Then I'm a little impressed by where we are, and then I'm fucking into it.
Yeah.
And so, but you can see all of that with no words.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That scene is one of my favorites in just film overall
Yes.
because of the transformation that has to happen
Yeah.
and the determination on both sides.
Oh, yeah.
Like one of the things that JK's character keeps talking about are moments, and he's always talking about live moments that were
Mhm.
captured. And during this, he's recognizing that this
This is a moment.
this is a moment and I need to give myself over to the moment. And I am the guy that can direct that guy to do
Yes.
this. So I'm being fulfilled, he's being fulfilled, but honestly I don't give a shit about him.
Yeah.
This is a me
Yeah.
moment that I'm recognizing I am in.
Yeah, I agree. And it was a little bit sparring for control.
Absolutely.
But also, if we're in it together, it's even getting more heightened.
Yes.
And you could see that happening.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful scene.
It was, yes.
Miles did not play drums before this. He actually learned how to play drums.
Oh, I read the opposite. I read that he had been a drummer, but really enhanced his drumming. I read
really?
that he had been a drummer, but that he took like 4 hours of lessons after he got cast.
Maybe I got confused then.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So,
But they did actually, for particularly a lot of the tight,
Yeah.
close shots, they did actually have a professional who was.
Which makes sense, regardless of whether he'd been drumming a little or a lot.
Yeah.
That was a professional,
Yeah.
no question.
Okay, so I do want to talk about the ending, because I think this movie ends exactly the way this movie needed to end.
Okay.
Which is, at the end of the drum solo, it's fade to black and it's over. There's no after, there's no, what did they do, how did they feel, there's none of that. You got the moment that the film was leading up to the entire time, and there's nothing further that needs to be said, so we'll end.
I fully agree. I myself personally would have loved, what the hell happens now, because of who I am and an audience member, but the movie needed it to fade to black because the culmination was the performance.
Yes.
So I completely agree with you.
A lot of people I saw have had an issue with that because they have that reaction of well,
emotionally, I want some emotional closure.
Did they become friends? Did they form their own jazz band? Did they do, did he go off and become this amazing drummer? What happens to them after? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't. It would have been more emotionally satisfying to know what happens, but I agree that the best way for the movie to end would be fade to black. Yep.
So that's all I wanted to say, is I think the movie ended exactly the way it needed to end and should have ended, by instantly going to black.
I agree. I think this is it was short, but it also did everything it needed to do in the time frame you had.
Yeah, it's a tight
compact.
movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I have nothing else.
I have nothing else.
Out of these four, Birdman, Boyhood, Selma, Whiplash, which would you put forward, if any?
I would put forward everything but Boyhood.
Okay.
I would put forward Birdman, Selma, and Whiplash. To me, are all Best Picture contenders for various reasons.
And I will agree with that. So, we then have Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game, Birdman, Selma, and Whiplash, so we did get down to 5. Birdman was the one that won, and out of those, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, even though we were gushing about it a lot, I still think this is a bit of a limb, that you don't think Birdman should have won, that you do think Grand Budapest Hotel should have won.
1,000% correct.
Okay.
And I would think that you agree with that.
No.
Do you think it should have been Birdman?
I honestly, it's a coin flip for me between Birdman and Whiplash.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And again, part of that might be the bias for Whiplash, but the movie has a thesis. The movie stuck 100% to its thesis, and every single thing in the movie Whiplash was in support of the main thesis of the movie. Birdman had a similar kind of vibe to it, where it had something that it was trying to say, but it was more exploring things. And I really like the tightness of a well-executed thesis in a film. So it's a coin flip between the two of them for me. And because Birdman won, I'll say short Birdman.
I would say the three of them all have something in common, which is they created the movie they wanted to create.
100%.
And they were all incredibly unique.
Yes.
None of these are movies that you would normally see in a regular year. Like Selma you would see in another year of great pictures. So I would say the three of them were incredibly unique and did exactly what they set out to do. For me, Grand Budapest Hotel, still from all of the things, from the production design, the costumes, the actors and everything. Whiplash to me was just a little bit too small, and it was such a two-hander. And that there wasn't a lot surrounding it. And Birdman was a very close second for me because of the same reasons I love Grand Budapest Hotel, is I couldn't see another person doing it.
Yep.
I think that it was a really kind of interesting and unique exercise, but Wes Anderson all the way for me.
I will give you that Whiplash is not as big of an achievement because it is a smaller, simpler film with just essentially two people just carrying the film all the way through. Grand Budapest is a massive achievement because of the scope and everything that was involved in it. I don't know, the story being so tight and well executed. That's why
We haven't disagreed in a while.
No, we haven't.
All right.
All right. So let us know what you think. Or was something else that I mentioned, should one of those have been nominated?
Maybe so.
Gone Girl, I think probably should have been nominated.
I think it should have been nominated over,
Boyhood.
I was actually gonna go with American Sniper or Theory of Everything.
Yeah, American Sniper did not belong at all in this category.
Boyhood, I think deserved the nomination for what it achieved,
For the
like
achievement.
Avatar.
Yep.
But, nah.
All right, let us know what you think.
Bye.
See ya.